area, and when they heard, Brigadier Stranks heard that everyone was being rounded up to be marched or trucked or trained off to a concentration camp, he sent the message out. Anybody that has a musical instrument, take it with you, bring it, wrap it in a blanket or whatever. Bring your musical instruments. Let's make sure we have music in this place. Well, the Salvation Army then gets to concentration camp and they formed a band, the Salvation Army Band. Some of our classmates, the boys, by the way, who are still living, played in the Salvation Army Band. Well, Brigadier Stranks said, we're going to win this war, so when we do, we must have a victory medley. Well, what should that be? Well, they said, let's serenade whoever's going to win the war and rescue us. Well, nobody knew who was going to win the war. Well, they said it could be America, it could be England, it could be China, it could be Russia. All right, well, let's put 4 national anthems together into a victory medley, and we will put it with Happy Days Are Here Again, and maybe something like Onward Christian Soldiers. And they would practice every Tuesday night outside the Japanese commandant's office, preparing for when we were liberated. And every Tuesday night they were playing, except they weren't allowed to play national anthems. So they would play all the harmony, but not the melody, practicing for the day that we would be liberated. Well, as the war continued on, people were getting scrawny. There were men that lost as much as 100 pounds in this concentration camp. There were people that were getting very, very discouraged because of the atmosphere, just feeling like the war was never going to end. Of course, obviously, we were not getting the proper news coming to us. There were all kinds of rumors that would be smuggled in sometimes by the coolie, the people that would carry out the slops from the septic tanks. That would be about the only place that somebody would get rumors of what was happening in the war. People were getting very, very discouraged with what was happening in this place. I remember August 1945. I was 12 years old. The teachers had given us a break a few weeks in that summer because the heat was unbearable, unbearable. And as the children were going to get ready to go back to school that Monday, I was lying sick with dysentery on the steamer trunks, and I thought I heard an airplane. It could be an airplane. This was Japanese territory. Airplanes did not come over this territory. But the noise got louder and louder, and I jumped up off the steamer trunks and ran to look out the barracks window, and here, flying low over the treetops, was a B-24 bomber. All right, guys, what was the B-24 called? The Liberator. Here comes the Liberator flying low over the treetops. You could tell it was American because it had the blue star underneath. Am I right, gentlemen? Well, believe me, it was instant cure for my diarrhea. I jumped up, I fed 1,500 prisoners heading, whoever these are, as I watched, parachutes began dropping with men hanging from the parachutes out into the fields beyond the barrier walls, and people falling, jumping out of that airplane. Well, I said 1,500 prisoners, I'm going to be 1,500, I'm going to be number 1 there to welcome these American gods that are dropping into the fields. This is the liberators have come. People, you know what the name of the airplane was? The Armored Angel. The Armored Angel. Well, when I got to the gates of the camp, 1,499 people were there ahead of me. People were on the ground, pounding the ground with their fists. Men were ripping off their shirts, waving at this B-24 that kept circling around and continuing dropping parachutes of supplies. And just hysterical, weeping, dancing, crying. And people of the camp just rushed out the gate, past armed Japanese guards, into the fields beyond the concentration camp gate to pick up these American gods, gorgeous, gorgeous American men with sun-bronzed skin and meat on their bones. And the men of the camp just picked them up on their shoulders and carried them on a bony platform of shoulders toward the gates of the camp. And when they got to the gates, up on a mound by the gate, the Salvation Army band was playing the victory medley. And when they got to that part, oh say, does that star-spangled banner still wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The young American major slithered down off that platform of shoulders to a standing salute, and a young American teenager playing the trombone in the Salvation Army band just crumpled to the ground and began to weep because he knew what we all knew. We were free, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Well, those Americans came and took over from the Japanese, and they said to the Japanese, you will continue to be right here helping to protect the safety of these people, because war, as you may recall in your history books, war continued and had been going on between the Chinese communists and the nationalists all over China. So the Americans said to these Japanese guards, you will stay here to see to the safety of these people here. And shortly thereafter, more American men began coming in to supplement the group of people that had, 6 Americans had parachuted from the airplane and 1 Chinese interpreter with them, all parachuted down and took over the concentration camp. I don't even have no words to describe how we adored those men. Do you remember how gorgeous you were when you were in the war? Now speak up, you know. Do you know how gorgeous you, am I speaking, did you feel the same way? Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. We wanted to touch their skin. We wanted to cut off pieces of their hair. We wanted their insignia. We wanted pieces of parachute. Oh, guess what? Like my sister, teenage girls, they got the neat stuff from the guys. They got the insignia. We little kids, 12 years old, we got the buttons. And we got pieces of parachute. Oh, we got their autographs. We followed them like the Pied Piper. We did not want them out of our sight. I can remember they took over the Japanese headquarters and slept in there. And we would sit out there in the evening time, beg them to tell us about America. What is America like? America must be close to God. It must be close to heaven. And please tell us what Americans do. What do they eat? What do they wear? Please sing us the songs. And they taught us, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Come on, come on. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. See there, after, what, 70 years, I can still, well, 60 years at least, more than 60 years, I can still sing that. Well, you know what? The Americans arranged for us to be evacuated from the camp. The 4 Taylor children were among I believe, the 2nd plane load of prisoners out, because our parents were among those who had stayed in China during the war, so they did not, naturally, were not going to evacuate us to England or America if our parents were still in China. But we were reunited with our parents 9/11/1945. We were reunited with our parents. My mother said she had to measure to see who was who. We had changed so much, and bless my soul, we had a little brother almost 5 years old that we had never seen. Well, you know, I came to the United States. We came to the United States a year later and lived the American dream that these American soldiers, these American men, by the way, most of them were in the Office of Strategic Services, as you may remember, was the forerunner of the CIA. And then most of them were in the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, were the liberation team. I had taken this miracle for granted as a child. Our teachers told us God would take care of us. My mother and father taught us from the Bible, He shall give His angels charge over you to keep you. But when I came to America and began studying history and reading about death camps and millions of people executed in horrendous ways around the world, I knew I had lived a miracle. An absolute miracle. And I would wonder, how would I find these people that liberated the concentration? Oh, we had their autographs, oh yes. Autographs, and told where they lived, you know, in Nebraska or Texas or New York or whatever. How would you find them? I would think about that often. I thought, you know, I really would like to find them to say thank you. This is a miracle. Well, you know what? In 1985, for the 40th anniversary of the ending of World War II, the Philadelphia Inquirer published an article that I had written. It was the cover story of their Philadelphia Inquirer magazine, talking about the concentration camp. In preparation for that story that I was writing, I went to England to interview our teachers that were still living. And I said to them, now that I'm grown up, I know that you helped create a miracle. What were you thinking when you are marched into a concentration camp in the midst of a bloody war with atrocities happening all around China? Everyone in China knew about the rape of Nanking. I forgot to mention to you one of the first demands when the Japanese came to our school the day after Pearl Harbor. He wanted to use the teenage girls for comfort women. I said to the principal of our elementary school, I tracked her down in England, and I said, Miss Carr, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind? You were a big person, you were grown up, you knew about war, you knew what the Japanese did to innocent women, children, and civilians. She said, I would pray to God every night that when the death pits were dug out beyond the walls, and they lined us up at the death pits, that when they began shooting, it would be me one of the first, so I didn't have to watch it. I said, Miss Carr, you never let us know such a thing. I had no idea. The only terror I knew in the concentration camp was those Alsatian dogs. We call them German shepherds here, but in China we call them Alsatians. I had no idea. I said, you know what? I have lived a miracle, and I wonder how I can find those heroes. I had no idea. None at all. Then in 1997, I was invited to run for the New Jersey legislature to be an assemblywoman. And I had just been nominated for the position. And I was invited by my senator, who I was running with. He said, Mary, on Saturday night, there's going to be a reunion banquet in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, just 10 minutes from my house. A group of people called the China-Burma-India Veterans Association. I can't go. Would you please go on Saturday night and give them a proclamation from the New Jersey legislature thanking them for their service to the United States during World War II. And you give them the proclamation. I said, China, Burma, India Veterans Association. I never heard of this group. But that must be who rescued me. And then the prickles began going up and down my spine that maybe one of my heroes would be in that banquet. So that week, I don't know about you boys, but we girls keep treasure boxes, see? Now I got my treasure box out, and I got out the names of the heroes, and I typed them up on the computer. And I took the names, and the ranks of the 6 Americans who had liberated the camp, took it with me to the banquet along with the proclamation that I was going to give. Here was a room full of men and women in their 70s and 80s in Mount Laurel, 10 minutes from my house, and celebrating their memories from World War II in China, Burma, and India. When it came my turn in front of the microphone, of course, I read the proclamation and thanked them for their service to the United States during the war. And then I said, I know it is not an accident that I was invited here tonight as a substitute for Senator Adler. And then I told them the story of the B-24, the Liberator, coming over the treetops in this concentration camp to liberate 1,500 Allied prisoners during World War II. And I said to the audience, I brought their names. And I read the names into the microphone. I said, is any one of my heroes in this room tonight? And I heard only silence, but people were weeping. And after the banquet, they came and took me in their arms. And they said, you have to write this in our national magazine that you are looking for these heroes. Write down their names, write down anything you know about them, their rank, put it in our magazine, and we'll send it around the United States. And put your name and address there so people can contact you, your telephone number. One man from the state of Maryland and that reunion got hold of my list. And he went back to Maryland and did some kind of computer search. A few days later, here comes a big fat brown envelope, hundreds of names. Every name in the United States that he could get off the internet that matched my heroes' names. Names, addresses, and phone numbers. I'm saying, bless my soul, here I am campaigning, going door to door, trying to get myself elected to be an assemblywoman in the state legislature. Now I've got to be definitely checking on this to find my heroes from World War II. But how in the world do you do that? Hundreds of names. Well, do you write letters and put a self-addressed stamped envelope? And I started. Dear, are you the James J. Hannon, or are you the whatever, Stanley A. Steiger, who liberated the Weishan concentration camp August 17, 1945, and then said, please return if you're the one. And I got a few of these, not many, a few. Well, God bless you in your search. I'm not the one, but I hope you find your heroes. Then I tried the telephone. Well, I hate answering machines. I hate answering machines. I would call on Sundays because I had MCI 5 cents a minute rate on Sunday, so I was doing very economically sensible choices of calling on Sunday night. And I'd call on Sunday night and I'd say, are you the James J. Hannon that liberated the Weishan concentration camp? I got nothing but answering machines. You know, I know that people thought there was some maniac lady out there calling these strange messages on the telephone. I got no positive answers. But not many weeks after the article appeared in the China Burma India magazine, I get a phone call from Moorestown, New Jersey, 10 minutes from my house. A lady who was a nurse in Burma. She said, I see that you've got this you're looking for these people that liberated the camp. She said, Raymond Hanshelak lives next door to my sister in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania in a place called Bear Creek Village. So on Sunday night, I called Bear Creek Village, Pennsylvania, and I said, I am calling for Raymond Hanshelak. The lady answered the phone. She wanted to know the purpose of my call. When I told her, I just heard her gasp. She says, oh my. She said, my Raymond died last year. Raymond Hanshelak was the medic on that mission. This lady had not known him during the war. She had married him sometime after the war. She said, I never knew that I was married to an American hero. She said he was trained as a member of Office of Strategic Services. He was trained in secrecy. She said he didn't talk. Nothing about what he did in the military. She never knew. So here was this widow who is pulling every fact I could tell her about her hero husband. She had never known any of this story. So now I said, oh my, widow. I could just see it happening. I was going to find widows and not heroes. It was nice to find widows and talk to them, but I wasn't going to find my heroes to say thank you to them. I picked up my list. There was only one name, Peter Orlich, O-R-L-I-C-H, unusual spelling. Queens, New York. Sunday night, I called Peter Orlich, Queens, New York. Lady answered the phone, same story. Her Pete died 4 years ago. Carol Orlich, the widow, she knew the whole story. Oh yes, she said. She had been writing to Pete Orlich all through the war, and she said when she married him, he would tell her about it. He was the youngest of the team. Oh yeah, everybody remembered Peter Orlich. He was cute, bashful, and single. All the girls in the camp loved Peter Orlich. So she said, I have a present for you, Mary. She said, in the bottom of my dresser drawer, she said, Pete's dresser drawer is a piece of silk parachute embroidered with the rescue scene of the liberation of Weixin with the autograph of each of the heroes. She said, I'm going to mail it to you because it's just sitting there in the drawer and you can have it. By the way, the Smithsonian has that on display right now, and it's amazing. Presentation called "The Price of Freedom." And there is that Peter Orlich's piece of silk parachute with each of the men dropping from the B-24 Liberator, and the date, August 17, 1945. One of my greatest treasures, believe me. All right, now I had 2 widows, and I was just getting the picture. So I went to my list again. Just one Tad Nagaki, Alliance, Nebraska. On Sunday night, I called and I said, I'm calling for Tad Nagaki. And he said, speaking, and I started to cry. I had found my first hero, a Japanese American. A Japanese American who was the Japanese interpreter on the mission. Born in America. He was born in America, an American citizen. We chatted for an hour on the telephone. I said, what did it feel like, Mr. Nagaki? Call me Tad. What did it feel like to have all of us children following you wherever you went? He had been a high school athlete. Oh my sakes, he played baseball. He ran hurdles. He was captain of the football team. And you know what? We got him to play as our catcher. The Americans played the British internees, and Tad Nagaki was our catcher, and he wore boots and everything. Oh my sakes. I said, what did it feel like when we followed you every place around? And he said, it felt like you put us on a pedestal. Well, that was an understatement. We made them gods. Now I had 1 hero, 2 widows. He says, I can help you find Jimmy Moore. Bless my soul. I had about 150 James Moores on my list I was going to have to call. And he said, I'll help you find Jimmy Moore. He lives in Dallas, Texas. He says, our families have stayed good friends through the years. We send Christmas cards and all. So he gave me Jimmy Moore's address. You will never believe when I called Jimmy Moore. He said, Mary, I am the son of Southern Baptist missionaries to China and graduated from the Chifu School for the Children of Missionaries. That was our school. Our school! He was a classmate of some of the children that were in the concentration camp. He knew some of the teachers, our headmaster. He said, I didn't have to go to war because J. Edgar Hoover said I was in the FBI, and FBI was doing important things for America for security, so I didn't have to go to war. And my wife didn't want me to go to war. But he said, I read in our school alumni magazine that some of our classmates were dying in the war, and he said, I had to go. So I resigned from the military, signed up to go to China because they were looking for people who could speak Chinese, and he had grown up in China. So he said, I went to China. In the back of my head, I was thinking a plan of how I was going to liberate my school and my teachers. And he said, when we dropped outside that concentration camp, we got inside. One of the first people I asked to see was Mr. Bruce, the principal or the headmaster of our school. Could you even imagine? Someone ought to make a movie of that. I mean, what does that sound like a lie that I'm telling you? Would you even believe such a thing as that? See, he shall give his angels charge over you to keep you. Now I had 2 heroes and 2 widows. I was at a dead end. I could not find Major Steiger, who led this mission, and I could not find James Hannon. But guess what, people? Guess what? Jimmy Moore, when he retired from when the OSS was compacted and became the CIA, what do you suppose? Jimmy Moore became a spy with the CIA. I now had a professional spy working on finding the rest of my heroes. Can you believe it? Jimmy Moore called me one day at my place at work, and he said, Mary, I've got good news for you. Today I found Major Stanley Steiger. He lives in Reno, Nevada. Not too long after that, he said, Mary, I've got good news for you. I found Jim Hannon in Yucca Valley, California. I had found 4 heroes. Each time I found one, I made a rumpus. I called the local newspapers and I said, did you know you have a hero in your midst? This is what his name is. This is what he did, and I will tell you what he did. And then I sent, you know about emails around the world. And I said to all the prisoners, I said, here are their names, addresses. Send them birthday cards, send them thank you letters, send them Christmas cards. These are the people that liberated us from the concentration camp. You know what? It didn't seem like enough inside my heart. I wanted to do more. That didn't seem like enough of a thank you. And that was when I decided I was going to take a pilgrimage across America to find my heroes and say thank you to them face to face. It took me about 2 years. I visited Jimmy Moore. I asked his preacher at his church if he'd let me preach on Sunday morning and tell the story to this congregation. And here was Jimmy Moore and his wife on the front seat. That congregation never knew they'd been worshiping in a church for dozens of years and never even knew they were worshiping with an American hero. I went on the train up to Long Island and spoke to the China-Burma India Veterans Association on Long Island and honored the memory of Peter Orlick. The lady that had first contacted me, the nurse from Burma, arranged to have Helen Hanshelak come down from Bear Creek Village, Pennsylvania, to an event in the Cherry Hill area in New Jersey, and I gave a speech honoring the memory of Raymond Hanshelak. I flew to California and spoke at the China-Burma India Veterans Association in Los Angeles and went and visited Jim Hannon and his wife in California. I do quite a bit of public speaking, so when my speaking was in that area, I was speaking at an event in California, so I was able to just skip over to Reno, Nevada for Major Steiger's 81st birthday. Had a chance to celebrate his 81st birthday with him. And then I flew to this little bitty town in Alliance, Nebraska, just a little dot on the map, a little farmland, and visited Tad Nagaki and said thank you to him face to face. By the way, Tad Nagaki now is the remaining one alive. I visited him in January. I flew to Alliance, Nebraska in January to celebrate his 90th birthday with him and his community, honoring this American hero. And yeah, I got a picture of him with the windmill in his farm. He's a farmer, still farming. Can you believe it? At the age of 90, God bless him. You know what? I cannot say enough thank yous to my heroes, but I would like to say it to you. You who sit here and served our country, served people like me here. If I can't say it to them, I think you look a lot like them. Your skin is a little more wrinkly than it was when you were in your 20s serving. And your eyes, your ears might not work quite as well.